fascinating and complex stories of recent memory. The reason for this narrative is the confusion, the speculation, and the hiccup of information, which often have no clear connection to each other. In the midst of this confusion, I researched the Gabriella Group cyber of Criminal to shed more light on the matter. It is crucial to look at things realistically, with logical mind and empathy. We live in a time, in sensational reports, exaggerated representations often prevail, which falsely puts people in a negative light, just because they are the focus of public attention. But genius and success often come with a price, and Gene Hackman is an example of this. Hackman was not a criminal, rather, he was a prominent actor who enjoyed the status and benefits of celebrity. His networking, or as they say, vitamin B, helped him to enjoy this status and to assert himself in the industry. This story is not only an examination of his person, but also a call to look at events with a differentiated view that preserves responsibility towards the truth and people. We'll delve into the real people behind the headlines who are often forgotten, and try to unravel the complexities. Join me on this journey to understand what really goes on behind the scenes of the fascinating, but sometimes dark world of celebrity. Written and researched by Gabriella Group cyber of Criminal. Narrated by Liam Greenwood. The death of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa. Date of discovery, February 26, 2025. Location, Santa Fe, New Mexico. On February 2025, U.S. actor Gene Hackman, 95 years old, and his wife Betsy Arakawa, 65 years old, were found dead in their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Causes of death. Gene Hackman died of serious heart disease, with advanced Alzheimer's disease found to be a contributing factor. Hackman was probably declared dead on February 18, 2025. Betsy Arakawa died of a hantavirus, which is transmitted through contact with infected deer mice. Investigators assume that Arakawa probably died days before her husband. Discovery of the bodies. The couple's partially mummified remains were discovered by maintenance and security workers in their home. The bodies were found by concerned neighbors who saw two bodies through a window. Investigations. The house's gas pipes were checked for possible leaks, but the investigations revealed no evidence of a leak. The investigating authority, the responsible sheriff's office, described the circumstances as suspicious enough to initiate a comprehensive investigation. More details. In addition to the couple, a dead dog was also discovered, while two other dogs survived. Hackman's body was dressed in a t-shirt and sweatpants in a so-called mudroom. The body of Betsy Arakawa was found in the bathroom next to a fan heater. Reactions. Gene Hackman was an icon of Hollywood cinema, known for his impressive acting skills and significant contributions to the film industry. The loss of this talented artist has sparked grief in the film industry, as well as among his fans and colleagues. Tributes and condolences have already been received on social media and through official channels. After the deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa, surprising discoveries were made within the mansion. The finds included, among other things, a door in the library of the extension from 2000, which led into secret passages. These corridors were not shown on the original plans of the house. Gene Hackman bought the villa in the 1980s and added an extension in 2000. During this renovation work, the underground passages came to light, which he had probably never reported to the authorities. It is possible that he kept these secret areas under lock and key out of personal interest or concern for his privacy and security. His prominent position and access to certain circles, often referred to as vitamin B, may also have played a role in the fact that these finds were not discussed. According to my research and various clarifications, I have received information from the Gabriella Group cyber that points to the clarification of the find. The confusion surrounding the discovery of the secret passages in Gene Hackman's mansion has led to a variety of speculations. It is important to note that the police have not been able or willing to take a clear position on this issue so far, as Hackman apparently did not have the authority not to report the corridors before he started the cultivation. The fact that the corridors were not shown on the original plans raises questions about the legal implications of its construction activities. Gabriella Group has shown that a factual and transparent clarification of the find is necessary to eliminate the confusion and clarify misunderstandings. It is recommended to gather all relevant information and analyze the situation comprehensively to understand the background of the discovery. The discoveries below the mansion of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman believed that he owned the land for the further extension of the mansion, as he had already acquired it before the expansion. However, he was not aware of what was in the secret passages below the estate. These had never been further researched in detail by him or his wife Betsy or the construction company. Over the years, many files stored in boxes remained untouched, dusty, and full of cobwebs. Some were opened, documented, and researched, but Hackman also lost the activity of exploring as he grew older. In the early 2000s, he began to actively investigate, but without ever officially reporting the presence of these veins. His explorations only progressed to a certain point, but not to the deepest areas. These inadequate investigations now lead to questions about the legal and aesthetic implications of the renovations and discoveries in the villa. The situation has become even more complex due to the current findings and requires a precise and thorough clarification of the background. Gene Hackman's mansion and the discoveries associated with it. The question of whether Gene Hackman was aware of the passages that may have been under his mansion in Santa Fe and the discoveries of skeletons and other artifacts raises several interesting aspects. Here are some considerations that should inform analysis and discussion of the case. Building plots and archaeological procedures. In the USA, the construction of new houses and villas usually does not require extensive preliminary archaeological investigations, unless the property is located in a historically or archaeologically relevant area. Therefore, it could be that no in-depth investigations were carried out during the construction of Hackman's villa. If the villa was built ahead of current archaeological standards, the lack of a thorough soil survey may have played a role in the discoveries. Knowledge of underground structures. Although Hackman may have been aware of the cultural significance of Santa Fe and the potential historic sites in the area, it is questionable whether he had specific knowledge of the realities of his own property. Often, such information is not directly accessible to homeowners. Discovered structures underground often remain unknown until they are brought to light by archaeological excavations. Therefore, the existence of the secret passages and skeleton finds could well have been unknown to Hackman. Foundation and building regulations. In the USA, foundations are often only excavated to a certain depth. If the corridors under the villa were lower, they could not have been discovered by regular building practices. In addition, developers and builders are often not required to disclose the entire history of a property unless there are specific requirements from the city or state. Cultural and historical sensitivity. If Hackman knew about the indigenous roots of the region or the historical sites nearby, he may have respected these aspects. Nevertheless, knowledge of the culture of the region does not necessarily protect against the discovery of secret or archaeological soil after construction. In summary, Gene Hackman may have known about the historical aspects of Santa Fe, but may not have had specific information about the secrets beneath his mansion. The construction may have been carried out at a time or under circumstances when extensive investigations were not necessary. The fact that Hackman may have had only superficial knowledge of the underground passages, and accounts of construction workers who went into these passages and never returned, raises intriguing and disturbing questions. Superficial knowledge of the corridors. It is conceivable that Hackman, although he lived in a significant historical area, was not aware of the specific details of the underground structures. Many homeowners often do not have the comprehensive knowledge of the historical or archaeological conditions of their properties. Historical sites are often not recognized until later, especially if they are hidden under modern buildings. The closed gates. The fact that the iron gates remained closed and untouched for a long time could indicate that they either served an important purpose or that someone made a conscious decision not to open them. This situation arouses interest and curiosity about the secrets hidden behind these gates. The gates could have remained locked for a reason to protect valuable or dangerous content, or they could have mystical or symbolic meanings. Reports on construction workers. Reports of construction workers getting underway and never returning are disturbing and add to the mysterious atmosphere around Hackman's mansion. It is worth noting that the disappearance of these construction workers has never been documented, and there has been no investigation into these incidents. It is possible that her disappearance was declared for other reasons and not brought in connection with the corridors of the villa in order to avoid a scandal or criminal consequences. It is important to note that such reports can often be exaggerated or distorted to increase the tension for storytellers and the media. Nevertheless, their existence should be taken seriously, as they can provide clues that there is something to discover in the region that may threaten or frighten. The combination of these aspects creates a fascinating picture of Hackman's mansion and the secrets it holds. The archaeological finds below Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe. The archaeological finds beneath Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe offer a fascinating perspective on the history of the area and the cultural heritage that comes with it. The underground passages represent a mix of different epochs that were used by the indigenous people until the dynasty. However, these discoveries also raise legal and ethical questions, especially with regard to the secrecy of the police and the permits for the construction of the villa. Possible context of the finds. The interplay of Hackman's possibly superficial knowledge, the mysterious, long-locked gates, and the stories of missing construction workers builds a gripping story that is both historical and mysterious. These elements offer numerous starting points for understanding the region and its cultural narratives. Mass graves or individual graves. The discovery of human skeletons in the underground passages may point to various historical contexts. Mass graves. A large number of skeletons could indicate a mass grave that originated from armed conflicts, plagues, or famines. Individual graves. It is also possible that the skeletons belong to individual burials that indicate specific social or cultural practices. Crime and mysterious circumstances. The circumstances under which the skeletons were discovered could indicate criminal activity in the area, especially if they were found in a context that suggests violent deaths. The stories of disappeared construction workers who went into the corridors and never returned are not documented, nor have they been investigated. This raises the possibility that the disappearance of these people may have been declared differently to avoid a scandal or criminal prosecution. Historical and cultural contexts. The skeletons found may have come from indigenous peoples whose burial practices differ from those of today. The respectful treatment and preservation of human remains are crucial in many cultures, especially indigenous ones. Archaeological significance. A scientific study of the skeletons and the circumstances of their discovery would be crucial to determine their origin and understand their cultural, social, or historical context. The discovery could bring to light a hidden story related to complex social dynamics and historical events. The question of the origin of the skeletal finds and their possible connection to criminal or historical backgrounds is complex. Whether they stem from conflict or are part of a cultural practice remains unclear, but it opens up plenty of material for speculation and discussion. Together with Hackman's superficial knowledge and the unclear circumstances surrounding the disappeared construction workers, the story invites us to question the interactions between history and modernity. The discoveries under Gene Hackman's mansion raise important questions about responsibility in the preservation of cultural heritage and require a thorough investigation of the legal framework and secrecy measures. It is crucial that all the facts come to light to ensure that both the historical integrity of the site and the rights of the affected communities are respected. The archaeological finds below the Villa Gene Hackman in Santa Fe. Introduction. The archaeological finds beneath Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe offer a fascinating perspective on the history of the area and the cultural heritage that comes with it. The underground passages represent a mix of different eras, used from the indigenous to colonial times. However, these discoveries also raise legal and ethical questions, especially with regard to the secrecy of the police and the permits for the construction of the villa. Layer. The secret passage is located below Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe, a region rich in history and cultural heritage. The location is characterized by a unique topographical environment that has both hidden and protected the passage. Preliminary research shows that the area was historically significant for indigenous communities and is believed to have served as both a shelter and a meeting place. Indigenous use, ca. 1000 BC, 1500 AD. Archaeological evidence suggests that the passage was built by indigenous peoples about 1000 to 1500 years ago. Initial investigations revealed several significant artifacts, including stone tools. Various stone tools indicate that this passage was used to obtain resources or for ritual purposes. Pottery shards. Remains of pottery found inside the corridor suggest that it was a place for communal celebrations or ceremonies. Petroglyphs. Inscriptions on the walls depicting animals and symbolic representations are related to the cultural traditions and beliefs of the indigenous peoples. This period shows the corridor as a communal and spiritual space that helped to strengthen the bonds within the community. Transition to a secret passage, 1600 AD, 1900 AD. With the arrival of the European colonial powers, the original function of the corridor changed considerably. Historical records suggest that it was repurposed as a secret escape route for indigenous peoples as well as settler groups during times of conflict and oppression. Evidence of this transition includes altered entrances. The entrances have been altered and camouflaged with natural materials to avoid detection by outsiders. The structure of the entrances reflects a mix of indigenous and European building techniques. Artifacts. Items such as metal tools and personal utensils found nearby attest to the diverse uses of the corridor over the centuries. This era was characterized by secret meetings that served to plan resistance movements and disseminate important information. The archaeological investigation of the corridor below Gene Hackman's villa offers crucial insights into the adaptive reuse of sacred spaces in a culturally rich context. The discoveries prove a continuous human presence and use of the corridor over centuries, with the function always adapting to the needs and ideologies of the users. The multifunctionality of this site shows the cultural resilience of the different groups that have used and repurposed the space to meet their needs. Recommendations for future studies. Further excavations. A systematic continuation of the excavations is recommended in order to discover additional artifacts from each period of use. Community participation, involving the local community and Santa Fe residents, can provide valuable oral stories that expand understanding of the socio-cultural significance of the gang. Conservation. Strategies should be implemented to protect this archaeological site from vandalism and environmental damage and to ensure its availability for future generations. Secrecy and legal implications. The archaeological finds beneath Gene Hackman's mansion in Santa Fe shed light not only on the historical use of the secret passage, but also on serious legal and ethical concerns about police secrecy and permits for the construction of the mansion. This situation points to a scandal that affects both the history of the place and the legal framework for its development. Secrecy of the police. The police apparently kept information about the well-founded secret passage and the historical significance associated with its secret. This raises significant concerns, as the preservation and promotion of cultural heritage is of fundamental importance. The secrecy could indicate a potential cover-up that did not inform the public and authorities, creating a legal gray area. The subsequent use of the site for private purposes without proper permits is extremely problematic. Building permits and legality. The fact that Gene Hackman received permission to build a villa on this historic property is questionable. There is a lack of clear documents showing that proper inspections and permits were obtained before construction began. It should be examined. Right to land ownership. Whether Gene Hackman actually had the rights to build in this historic region without taking into account the legal and historical permits. Building plans and changes. The existing building plans show no evidence of the secret passage, which leads to the assumption that access from the villa may have been created later. This could indicate that it is not in line with the original permits and therefore may have been illegal. Reporting and accountability obligation. According to the legal provisions, Hackman should have been obliged to report the discoveries regarding the secret passage immediately. This could have had the following consequences. Transfer to the city. If the secret passage had been recognized as a historic site, the villa might have had to be transferred to the city to be managed as a public heritage. Obligation to sell. Alternatively, Hackman would have had to sell the property in order to meet the legal requirements associated with the preservation and use of a historically significant site. The mystery. The unclear legal situation and the secrecy of the information surrounding the secret passage raise many questions. What actually happened when the construction project was approved? What is the role of local authorities and the police in this matter? Was Hackman able to circumvent the legal provisions, and if so, how? These issues urgently need to be investigated in order to clarify the responsibility of the parties involved and to ensure that cultural heritage and the legal framework in Mexico are respected. The case below Gene Hackman's villa in Santa Fe is not only an archaeological, but also a legal and ethical mystery. The secrecy by the police and the questionable permit for the construction cast a shadow over the integrity of the process. It is crucial that all the facts come to light and that a thorough investigation is launched together with the relevant authorities. Recommendations. Legal review. A comprehensive review of building permits and historical documentation should be carried out. Public transparency. It is important to inform the public about the discoveries and the legal implications of the case in order to restore trust in the local administration. Preservation of cultural heritage. The secret passage and the surrounding historical sites should be considered cultural heritage and protected accordingly. If you are interested in the truth and not in a mendacious sensation, I invite you to subscribe to this channel, share it and leave your thoughts in the comments. Here we offer a clear and in-depth look at the events, which are often marked by confusion and speculation. There is definitely much more to go into and explain in more detail, especially the find below Gene Hackman's mansion. It is possible that we will come across important archaeological finds that will further enrich the history of the region and perhaps even be presented in museums. So stay tuned to this channel of truth. Together, we will remove the layers of history and bring the hidden secrets to light. Your interest and support is invaluable, and I look forward to accompanying you on this exciting journey. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.